This video here is actually intended to look at the various elements of Windows Phone 8. You know, what makes it different, and what are some of the unique features that we can see on it, and what are some of the biggest changes that we have seen over Windows Phone 7.5, or Mango as they like to call it. This here is the HTC Titan II. Now this is a device running Mango, or it's also known as Windows Phone 7.5. Windows Phone 7 and 7.5 of course have this unique user interface called Metro, or not Metro anymore, it's Modern. It's very easy for us to just slip into habit and call it Metro, of course. Now you take a look at this, and then you bring over the Windows Phone 8 interface, and as you can tell, it's full of live tiles just as before. You still have the same kind of information at your fingertips. The difference is you have a whole bunch of different sizes available to you, and it also takes up a whole lot more screen space. Now the thing about the Titan II or any Mango device is that you have this black bar right here. Now it certainly adds for beautiful design, but it's not quite effective when you're trying to go by Microsoft's mantra of glance and go. When you only have the capacity of up to 8 live tiles up on the main screen when you're first viewing it without having to scroll or go to the app list, you know, that's a little bit troublesome, because it ideally would be nice to have as much information as humanly possible. So it just seems like a whole bunch of wasted space, especially when you get up to screen sizes like 4.7 inch, where it's just like, what's the point of all this extra space? Certainly when you go into the apps, that's a different story. You can, of course, utilize that extra area. But when it comes to glance and go, and you're taking a look at the start screen, it just makes a lot more sense to have the entire thing filled up. And you also have, of course, the different sizes. Like we said, we have small, medium, and large. Now this is one of my favorite features of Windows Phone 8, just simply because it allowed me to reprioritize a few things. So for example, you take a look here, and you've got a huge, let's say for messaging. Okay, I've got 3 messages here. It's a huge box. I don't need to be taking up that much space to know that I have 3 messages. Some people like to have that larger size just because it's a little bit easier to press, right? Well, the nice thing is now you have the ability to pick and choose for yourself. So, for example, my messaging box on Windows Phone 8 is much smaller, so I still see the 3 perfectly easy when it comes out. In that way, it doesn't have to take up a whole lot of extra space. The same goes with toggle switches or things like the settings menu, where I can just easily go in here and pull this up without any issues at all, and it's not taking up a heck of a lot of unnecessary space. So what's great is now I can actually use all that extra space for stuff that makes more sense. So a live tile such as CNN down here, I can see the entire headline if I have it open to basically the entire width of the phone. Developers can take advantage of this, of course, where you're required to have the medium and small sizes as a developer, so that way people can pick and choose, but you can also have the option of going with a large size tile. Now what you do, of course, you long press the live tile, it starts hovering over the rest of the tiles, and you have this little arrow here. You just press it and it allows you to resize it and move it around however you'd like. Nothing to it. Same with, let's say, Score Center. I can bring that out there. Don't think I have any scores in there at the moment, so that's kind of boring. And it's still just as easy, without having that extra black bar, it's still just as easy for me to swipe over. And of course that little telltale arrow that shows you, hey, there's something to the right here, is down there at the bottom right. Okay, so now I have all my different apps, and essentially this part is all the same. There's nothing new here in terms of user interface, and frankly you go throughout the rest of the phone and most of it is going to be incredibly similar. So we won't go into a lot of detail about the various changes to the UI itself, because honestly Windows Phone is certainly the same kind of experience. So what you saw in Windows Phone 7 is ultimately what you're going to get on Windows Phone 8, just a little bit improved. in terms of what kind of features are offered and things like that. Now we're going to take a look at the lock screen, which is also a bit different. Date and time and all the icons up here are all the same. Ultimately, you have the same icons down at the bottom that give you a number. Say, for example, you have one email here, one text message, one missed call, that kind of thing. But here's a few differences. Here in this section, where it used to be that only calendar appointments, your next calendar appointment would show up, now you have the choice. You don't have to go with the calendar appointment, you could go with your most recent email address. So in this case, I got a message from, well, me. Because, let's face it, it's late on a Friday night, nobody's emailing me, so I just sent myself one for the purpose of this video. So hey, check out this Windows Phone. So I can get a little idea of what the most recent message is, and I can say, okay, well, I want to go in and check it out. Now, beyond that, down here where you have the notifications, that's still all the same, except now you can customize exactly what goes there. So let's go in here, lock screen. So here you have 5 different areas, and I have chosen for mine the my most popular inbox, how many missed calls I have, messages, here's my less popular inbox, and also I have Facebook here. Now this is a very important thing to point out, is that these the first 4 are basically for a certain set of applications. Like, you can only have one app from a third-party developer taking up space for notifications at the bottom of your lock screen. So in this case, really, Facebook is the one third party, and so all these other options ultimately need to take up the rest of the space. So I can still go in and customize, and so third-party apps will definitely be able to take advantage of that, but you have to pick and choose exactly what you want. Anybody huge on Facebook obviously will want to have something like this. Now, in terms of the detailed status, where the calendar notification used to be, now you can choose Gmail as well as a whole bunch of other options. So you're really not restricted as much to the kinds of details that you can see. So that's quite nice to have that handy. Another thing that you noticed here is that this has some clouds and the weather up on top. Now this is part of the live wallpaper that you've probably heard a little bit about with Windows Phone 8. And ultimately, how it goes is third-party developers have access to just throw in dynamically changing updates on the screen. So in this case, HTC has thrown in a weather app where the wallpaper on the lock screen reflects the weather patterns at the time. Whatever weather condition you have right now is cloudy, of course. So that would change if it's raining or whatever. Now you can also see that it shows off the weather, the temperature, and all that fun stuff. So just basically, it gives you a lot more information to just glance at. Now you can change that over to, of course, other apps. So we go back here into the lock screen, and so for the background, we could have it be several things. We could have it be Groupon, Facebook, Bing photo of the day, for example, CNN headlines, so whatever the breaking news is at the time, that would show up on your lock screen. Kind of cool. Facebook, all of your friends sending you love, well, there you go, right there on your lock screen. Now what I'm going to show you next is one of my absolute favorite parts of Windows Phone 8. And this is something that you can't find in any of the other operating systems as of this point. We'll see if it comes out in any future updates. But as of right now, me doing this video, Windows Phone 8 has come out with an option for a guest user account. So now you can have more than one user. And this comes in really handy if you're a parent, you have kids that you don't want them getting into your stuff and like just messing with your email, deleting a whole bunch of old messages, and tweeting out all sorts of gobbledygook. So what you can do now is you can set up what's called Kids Corner, where instead of swiping up, you're swiping to the right. So in this case, I have it for the kids. Of course, it can also be for all of your frat buddies if they like to get into your phone and start messing with it. Well, now they're not able to, because you can set up a password so they can't get into your account, and they can just go into this guest user account. Right now, for my kids, I've set it up with a whole bunch of different games, so that way if they ever get a hold of my phone, they can just swipe to the right, swipe up, and boom, here they are. They still have the ability to customize, and they can choose colors, and ultimately that's all they can customize, frankly, because it's pretty restricted. Calculator, well, my kids are probably never going to use that, but hey, I just threw it in there for video purposes. So now they can go in and just play whatever games they want, no problem. And then when they're done and I'm ready to use it, then I can go up and all I have to do is just pop in my password and I'm back into my own. So how this works is there's actually, let's see where it is. There's a live tile, and there's also an area in the settings where you can get this. So you go in and you can set up which games you want them to have access to, if you want them to have any music or videos, apps, the whole 9 yards. Essentially, you can just pick and choose what you want them to have access to, and then that way, that's all they can play with. That's all they can use, and it certainly is a lot of peace of mind on the part of any parents out there. So that's a huge thing that I really would love to see on Android and iOS at some point. So hopefully that's in the works. You never know.